Bay-Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg, and your Colonial Champion, Sean McCourt. Welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of ages 18 and up, which makes you adults, or actually anybody can watch this, but some of you need your parents' permission, and you know who you are. Welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast, because no matter the demographic, we are here to give you all of the fantastic wrestling updates occasionally. Because we are usually astute, or we used to be, and now we just post whenever we feel like it. And you know what? I'm not upset about that. We are happy to talk to you anytime that we need to talk to you. And because there's been so much seismic shifting in the wrestling business over the past 3 years or so, what I thought would be fun to do as your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, is to break down the state of wrestling today in 2025 ahead of WrestleMania 41, which is gearing up to be an incredible build, and we will see what those two nights have in store for us. But I want to talk about wrestling broadly as a whole, and this is going to be a two-part event because we are going to get one side of the equation. I'm going to ask the same questions, and then I'm going to get the other side. And we're going to see both co-host chairs, and whichever opinion I like most will get to stay, and the other I will hit this fine little button, and it'll boost the ejector seat up and into the sun. And hopefully they brought their Icarus wings with them, otherwise they gon' melt. And they may still melt, because if you know what Icarus is, then, you know, they won't be helpful. But we are starting today with a very long rambling that I am going to pass off to my good dear friend, the man who can sometimes save these promos, who can sometimes bring hilarity, and who almost always brings the chaos, and as an agent of chaos who believes that it is fair itself. Please welcome wrestling's favorite joker, not a part of an E-Fed, JoshAgeddon. We are past the 2-minute mark. Swear as much as you'd like. How would you like to tell us how you fucking doing, brother?
I'm good, although if you make one more Greek mythology reference, I might end up being dead, Dulles. See, because Greek mythology is very much my thing. That is my cup of tea, good sir.
Yes.
I'm doing well. I've had an extremely busy day. I had to get my oil changed. I have to go get my front light fixed again. And just, I have so much shit to do. I'm tired, and now I'm podcasting. How are you, Sean?
You know, I'm wonderful. I am not that tired because I am an addict of coffee. In fact, I drink far too much coffee during the day. I have like a cup and a half in the morning, and that's not even doing it justice. Not like a cup in a measuring cup, like a mug, which is probably like 2 cups. I have one of those in the morning, then I may have like a half of one of those at work, and then I come home, and then I have another one of those at like 3 o'clock. It's not healthy, but nobody...
You have a very beautiful mug, by the way.
Well, thank you. And I'm laughing at a joke that we made just a couple seconds before we started the podcast, and I am not at liberty to divulge what it was, but, you know, anyway.
Yeah, we would like to remain on the airwaves.
Yes, we're trying to, yeah. But, ladies and gentlemen, instead of providing you inside jokes, let's talk about what you all want to hear about, the state of professional wrestling today. Now, what I want to do, JoshAgeddon, is I've got a list of things and topics that I'd like us to talk about with the pros and cons of these things and where they are. So this is almost like a roided up news of the week, because it's just, but it's more kind of painting a broad spectrum picture of how we view wrestling now, how it's changed, and where we think the future of wrestling is heading. So,
well, I mean, maybe if we were doing the T-Mobile variant, I'd be able to help you, but I don't have Spectrum.
That's right. Well, speaking of Spectrum, and I mean that because it is actually just a more popular service over on the West Coast, our good friend Skylar Greenberg, who is the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler himself. He is not here today for this part of the recording, but you are going to hear next week his take on the state of wrestling today. So you are going to hear a 2-part series of both individuals with me as the glue, the anchor, made pure from horsepower itself. And
I prefer to think of you as the creamy, gooey Oreo center.
that's right. Well, I'm a Kinder Bueno. So that's a reference for you kids, but I'm not in an egg. I'm more of a bar type guy. But anyway, we start with the bar being raised with the WWE. Let's start there.
Okay.
Because think about where we were in the build-up to WrestleMania a year ago. Just tell me what was going through your mind as we were nearing what WrestleMania 40 would be.
Well, it's very well documented, the emotional roller coaster ride that I went on this time last year.
I think we all did. Well, yeah, you specifically. Please recap it for the ladies and gentlemen who were not here at the time.
Dude, I felt like, especially around Royal Rumble time for the past several years, that I was just waiting for the axe to drop and decapitate the shit out of me. I knew they wanted to do Rock and Roman.
Yeah.
And at the 2023 Rumble, I was like, if Rock wins this Rumble, I swear to God. And then Cody won. And I was like, yay, they're going to go with Cody. And then Cody lost at WrestleMania. And I was like, fuck. And then WrestleMania 40 came. And I was like, oh my God, Rock might win the Royal Rumble. And we're going to be forced to sit through Rock and Roman. And then Cody won the Royal Rumble. And I was like, yay, they're going to push him. And then that SmackDown came. And The Rock was like, that's a nice main event you got there. It'd be a shame if anything happened to it.
Yeah.
And then when that happened,
Me one half.
I may or may not have been like, that's a nice wrestling DVD collection you got there. Be a shame if anything happened to it.
And he recorded this, ladies and gentlemen. There is footage of him throwing these away.
I sure did.
And I will say this too. It's like you and I were discussing on an unrelated topic how toxic the attitude of me want have can be if not cognitively executed upon.
Yeah.
That is what happened with The Rock. Because The Rock thought he could just come in and be like, that's mine. And everyone was just going to be like, okay, you're The Rock. You can have it. No. Cody had earned too much of the people's trust at that point. And with Triple H now pretty much exclusively under center now, or which is a football reference, but under the helm, let's say, people weren't sure whether they would have the balls to actually pull the trigger on giving Cody the belt. Because Roman Reigns had a 3.5-year run that started with the Vince administration. And we weren't even, and when Cody lost at WrestleMania 39, I'm glad you brought that up, because we were all like, they had it and they dropped it.
Yep.
And we all thought they missed their chance because Vince was still kind of there. But this was an ultimate test of faith. And what were we saying in the weeks leading up to that show?
Well, I was saying I do not have faith. Woe is me of little faith, all who enter through here. I was ready to just stop watching if Cody lost again. It was absolutely make or break.
Yeah.
But I will say, the whole monkey wrench of the whole hashtag We Want Cody thing made that road to WrestleMania so interesting, despite the fact that I was teetering on the edge of a complete psychotic episode. Despite that, it was still fun to experience.
Oh, for sure. Well, and the promo build, I mean, that's one thing that was different from that WrestleMania is that the build to WrestleMania 40, kind of similarly to now, was spectacularly executed.
Yeah.
You know, it was the way how personal it was. I mean, it was, you know, we say it's WWE Avengers Endgame. But that's how they built it up and how they were all trying to take down this one major foe and the bloodline and how all of that was taking place. But we said constantly, or at least I did, they have to stick the landing.
Indeed.
And then they did. And is it still weird to you that they did?
I'm not going to lie. Whenever Cody walks out with the title, it takes me a second to go, oh yeah, that's right. They actually did it.
Yeah.
They actually went with him.
Yeah.
It's still a little weird. It's still a little weird. I mean, you let's put it into perspective. It's still weird seeing Roman without the belt.
Agreed.
Because his reign started back during the Thunderdome era.
Yeah.
And that feels like an eternity ago.
Yeah. He won that title from Bray Wyatt, didn't he? Or Braun Strowman?
No, it was at Payback 2020. And it was a triple threat match.
It was a triple threat where he pinned Bray and Braun was in it, right? Was that how that worked?
He pinned Braun. So what happened was at SummerSlam, Bray Wyatt beat Braun Strowman in a terrible no DQ match. That was when Braun Strowman didn't know how to use that box cutter knife on the ring.
I remember that match.
Yeah, because wrestlers and actual real life tools don't mesh all that well.
No, they do not.
Circumstances. So then they had their rematch at Payback, but Roman was also involved, but he didn't actually get involved in the triple threat match until they already destroyed the ring with the superplex that we've seen 100 times.
That I remember.
And then Roman pinned Braun with the spear.
Right. I'm sorry. The reason I'm laughing is that there was that one flash that Braun Strowman was so over and you detested it, and you swore that dude wasn't any good, and the people were trying, and it's just so funny how many times that dude has just been cut off at the knees. Yep. He builds up a little momentum, and then they just chop off his dick over and over and over. They did it in 2017 when Brock just honked his briefcase down like across Saudi Arabia just to be left into the sand. And
speaking of Brock, I will never forget when they had that weird-ass triple threat match at the Royal Rumble. Brock, Braun, and Kane. And Braun accidentally legit smacked Brock with a knee strike, and for like a good 10 seconds Brock was like, I'm gonna murderize the shit out of you for real. And he dropped him with a gut punch and punched him in the temple as hard as he could.
Yeah, that was a receipt, all right.
Oh, I love Brock.
Well,
and
but
Braun. Do you remember when we reviewed that one War Games and Shotzi got smacked in the face with a trash can lid, and it made me so happy?
Yes,
like,
I do remember that.
Nothing makes you happier than when someone you hate gets blasted. And I was like, well, it's called living vicariously through another human being.
Boy, and
that's how I felt when Brock Lesnar beamed the shit out of Braun Strowman.
Well, and they're still trying to use him. But now it's like, oh man, that ship's so sailed. But in any case, save for Braun Strowman, but you think about that era of when we like started the Court-Martail podcast, right? Going through the whole era of that, the misery where all three of us quit watching for a while. In 2022, when they did WrestleMania 38, which is even agreed amongst the boys to be the drizzling shits.
Oh, God, that WrestleMania. Literally the only good thing to come out of that WrestleMania is Cody coming back.
Well, that's what started the change.
Yeah.
That's that.
Especially night 2. Dude, yeah. I remember the night 2 review that we did, and we just sounded defeated, abused.
We were done. We were done.
You know those really sad commercials with like the abused dog in a cage and just like, please give us money, sad music?
Yeah.
That's what we sounded like.
Well, and you know what? It ended up being a fine time for the Court-Martail podcast because we then watched old pay-per-views and we reviewed old-time shows, and we just talked about other things that weren't involved with just the traditional goo-gaw of professional wrestling on a monthly basis. But then we got reeled back in. But look at where the WWE has gone since since Endeavor took it over and Vince has left the equation. Things you never thought you'd see. Like, and have you seen the YouTube channels that they have released?
Oh, yeah.
The way that the WWE has treated their tape library, how do you feel like they are respecting their history now as opposed to before when there was a certain other leathery shit-heading man in charge?
It's been substantial. Like, the whole Vault channel is an absolute treasure trove.
And they're giving it away just for ad revenue.
Yeah. which is smart.
Genius.
And not even just that, but they're interacting with other companies.
Yeah.
Which they never did.
Yeah, I was going to bring up this partnership with TNA, even though TNA pulled another TNA and fired half of its management. Their yearly cleaning of house in February to April has been completed.
Didn't they fire Gail Kim?
They did fire. They fired like 2/3 of the people involved. And
oh, wow.
I know it's TNA's gonna TNA, man. You can't un-TNA TNA. But still, think about the partnership that they have now with WWE. We thought that Scott D'Amore leaving was going to be the end of TNA, but here they are with new accounts firing people again. But at the same point, they're doing maybe the best business TNA's ever done with the conjunction with WWE, where we got Jordan Grace out of the deal as champion in a Rumble.
Yeah. And she's officially a part of the NXT roster now.
Yep. And has been treated. And let's talk about NXT. Because NXT is now under the Shawn Michaels administration. What do you think about NXT now? As far as who they've got and how they're pushing people, and what do you think of Shawn Michaels has brought to NXT that it didn't have before?
I will admit, I haven't watched all that much of it, because ever since they changed it to the rainbow vomit monstrosity that was 2.0, it really was hard to be interested.
Yeah, I agree.
But I watch it every once in a while, and what I see I kind of like, but I will say, you know me, perpetual angry man screaming at the sky. It feels like...
Who are you talking to here, dude?
it feels like WWE for Zoomers.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest gripe.
Well,
but the actual wrestling on the show is good.
Well, and I mean, I guess that's fair enough. I mean, they are the up-and-coming stars, and they are kind of, that's what they are. They're the Gen Z kids who are doing it. And I'm not saying that there aren't redeeming qualities. I just find most of them are a lot smaller than I want them to be. And there's certain people who I think are a little overly gimmicked there. And
that one dude who's I can't remember what his name is.
Tony D'Angelo, I guarantee you that's who it is.
Yes.
The Italian guy.
He's essentially Michael Corleone in CIW.
Hey, you got a little bit of the gabagool, it's... Yeah, no.
Yeah, if he was in an EFED and in a managerial position, he would be Michael Corleone. But I just don't think he's that good, and I think his gimmick is lame, and there's no way it would work on the main roster. Well,
and I think that's kind of Vince's influence on Shawn Michaels at that point.
Yeah.
But and I'm not...
And the whole Chase U thing, especially with the teacher guy who only ever wrestles in his teacher outfit, I hate that so much.
Yeah, there's some stuff that's like a little too like when Shawn was champion in 1996.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not that shocking that that's the glory days he wants to revisit before he lost his smile. And
well, nothing makes me lose my smile faster than a stereotypical New York wannabe gangster and a middle school teacher.
Well, yeah, and it's and somewhere Matt Stryker is rolling over in his I don't even know where he is now. What is Matt Stryker doing? If you need help, Matt, contact us. Not financially though. We can't help financially, but if you want, but contact us. Well, we'll at least talk it out. If you need a friend, let us know.
You can be the Court-Martail podcast outside field correspondent.
That would be amazing. You know how amazing, how great that would be if Matt Stryker... I put him in my commentary booth with Taz the entire time. And if he literally went, hey, I'll actually go out in the field and get interviews for you if you want to just discuss shit, I would 100% be in. But again, we have nothing financially. Do not ask for money. This is pro bono work.
Matt Stryker is such an interesting case because sometimes his commentary was great. Other times his commentary was just weird.
And sometimes it got too marky.
Like,
is what
not
I
even
would
that.
call it.
He would just say the most random, off the wall shit. And just things just would like. He would say something that you would say like at the beginning or middle of the match during the finish. Like, I remember one of my favorite pay-per-views is Night of Champions 2010, and it's the six-pack challenge, Sheamus defending the title against Randy Orton, John Cena, Edge, Chris Jericho, and Wade Barrett. It's down to the final two. Sheamus is trying to defeat Randy Orton, and Randy Orton's about to hit him with the RKO and win. And for no reason, Matt Stryker says Randy Orton is a third-generation superstar, and then he hits the RKO and wins. And I'm like, thanks, Matt, for your insightful commentary. It's just so misplaced. And I'm like, why did he... Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler are about to have an orgasm, and Matt's just like giving us Randy Orton trivia at this pivotal moment of the match.
I thought it was much better in Lucha Underground. I thought he had a little more freedom to do that, but sometimes he would he would use too much of an inside reference for my liking. You know, I would want him to tone it down a little bit, but it depends on me. Like for me, Joe Tessitore gets that way sometimes. Where something that's supposed to be crazy, and then he's like, oh my God, look at what has happened here.
His emotions struggle to match the moment that's happening.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And, I like him interviewing Jesse Ventura because he's a perfect straight man for Jesse.
Yeah.
That's great use of Joe Tessitore. But, he's more of a Sean Mooney type.
Yeah.
The way would be how I would put that. But that's not a knock or a criticism. It's just, I don't know if commentary is necessarily his bailiwick.
Yeah.
But speaking...
Sometimes he's great. Sometimes when he wants to, he can put the emotion into it. It's just other times, like someone will go through 45 tables and he sounds like he's reading off a cue card at a funeral.
That's a good call, JoshAgeddon.
So shut the fuck up, Sean.
Well, we're gonna get to AEW, but I will have to say this.
We haven't got to the depression part of the show yet.
But I will have to say this though, JoshAgeddon. I was watching a WCW show the other day because they launched a WCW YouTube channel.
Wow, really? They did?
Yeah, they're posting all of the shows. They've got like a 24-hour live stream of all the shows. They've been posting live full matches. They're like, give me your nostalgia money. That's how
Vince McMahon is rolling in his grave and he's not even dead yet.
Yep, get fucked. Because you know what? They're giving us the treasure trove. Because truthfully, the ad revenue on that has got to be pretty solid.
Dude, you know what they're going to do next. They at some point, because they have the tape library, they're going to do an ECW one too. They're
going to do an ECW one. I'm sure they're going to do ones for the territories. And then they're going to scoop up a lot of YouTube videos for copyright.
Oh, yeah.
But who cares? They're in control unilaterally, because the thing about WWE with Endeavor is that, to me, it's very much felt like they're doing everything they can to be as close to something that should be trust-busted without actually being trust-busted.
Yeah.
Because given the way that they're cutting off talent with the WWE ID, even on the indie scene, they've expanded to be like, oh, we like you, and we like you, and we like you, and we like you. And here's a chance to be tagged by us, like a franchise tag. You don't know sports, but a franchise tag. Which means we want you, but we're not really sure we want to give you the money to really want you. So, let's see how you do, and if we don't want you, we'll just let you go free, and if not, we'll sign you to a longer-term deal. Which is basically what a franchise tag is.
It's like going to a car dealership and taking a car for a test drive.
Kind of. But you still have to pay for it somewhat. You don't usually pay for a test drive.
I actually have a PS2 game called Test Drive. I've never played it, but I need to take it for a test drive.
Good game. I played the Game Boy version, Test Drive 6, which is great. Love that game.
6 of them?
Yeah, but a lot of them were handheld. But Test Drive 6 was very good. One of my favorite racing games, actually, ever on the Game Boy. Look it up, folks. Solid way. But anyway, we talk about this, but other landmark things they're going on, like the Netflix deal. And how they are just reshaping the way that people are consuming pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
With all of this, including the ad space, where do you see WWE placing parameters, if any, on the amount of advertising that's coming in and how much they're willing to sell out for all of these various places that they are acquiring money from.
I think the answer to that lies in where and how much they're jacking up the prices for tickets.
Yeah.
Have you seen some of these WrestleMania tickets?
They're not sold out for a reason.
Holy shit.
Neither night is sold out, and they're going to expand the shit out of those numbers, no doubt. They're going to expand the shit out of those numbers, but they're kind of doing what the Super Bowl is doing and just pricing people out of the market.
Yeah, so if they're willing to do that, I think the sky is the limit.
Well, Royal Rumble 26 is in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, God, don't remind me.
I hate to remind us all of that, but see, that's, you know, the ad space. That's where one of those things that Vince never wanted, ad space on the mat. Now the mat is carpet bombed. But I don't necessarily hate it because they're very discretionary about when they use it.
Yeah.
You know, I just wish it weren't prime.
I've had a couple of those. They're fine.
They taste synthetic to me. Just taste like fake ingredients. But
well, it is. Look who we're talking about. It's Logan Paul.
It's Logan Paul, so that's why I've only had like one or two of them. But
if something came from Logan Paul that tasted real, I'd be surprised. I'd feel ripped off if it tasted real.
Well, I guess that's fair. And well, and
what a ringing endorsement.
But given that that's the nature of the business, that's why we like Logan Paul doing what he's doing in the wrestling business. And then we talk about the pay-per-view structure. Where do you see pay-per-views under the Triple H administration, or PLEs, excuse me?
First off, don't you bring those three letters into your own house again.
Please!
Stop that.
I just did it.
As far as pay-per-views are concerned, and that is what I will refer to them from now on until the day I pass away from this earth.
Yeah, it's a habit I'm not willing to break either.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's going to stay kind of the same as it is now. I feel like depending on the importance of an event, like there are some shows where he might go 6 matches or like 5 matches. I honestly don't. I know a lot of people whine, bitch, and moan about like, oh, Triple H only has 5 matches on this pay-per-view. Why don't you watch it? When the matches are usually quality
and they mean something.
They mean something. And there's too many ads. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that you get down to sit down and recollect yourself between matches. As far as the other stupid company that we'll be talking about in a second, where it's match after match after match after match after match. Yeah. What do you mean you're tired? It's match after match after match.
Yeah, they give you time to change your pants in between matches in case they've done something so shocking you've shat them.
Yeah,
you know,
or done something else that might lead to impregnation.
Well, and that's, I guess, the final thing where I want to. Okay, that's where I'm gonna. That's right where I'm gonna wrap that up. But
I mean, if you wrap that up, there won't be any impregnation.
But that's the point, because then one thing leads to another, and then the next thing you know, you're eating your wife's placenta. So let's and then
John Cena is not mentioning it in a promo.
And then you become the WWE champion. So maybe there's something to that. I'm just saying. Maybe there was a reason that all of that took place. That was a necessary ritual for Cody to.
Since I'm in the E-Fed wrestling business, whenever I have a wife, she's going to be very concerned as to why I bring a cardboard box to the delivery center whenever she gets pregnant.
Well, that is.
Just don't ask questions.
I won't. But to kind of just put a bow onto all of this whole thing with the WWE. Where do you see the future of WWE headed? Because it's a new era, and they're doing some of their best stuff, and they've been cooking on the road to WrestleMania 41. Where do you see it as a company at large? What's in store for WWE in the next 5 years?
Honestly, they've been on this hot streak, this really long hot streak ever since the beginning of 2024, funnily enough, the exact second that Vince McMahon left. Wow. Makes you really think, maybe he should have left sooner, but we can rend our garments and wail and gnash our teeth some other day. But I think at some point it's not going to nosedive or peter off. I think it's the hot streak is going to just kind of stagnate, and they're just going to be fine. Do you remember when I was like a couple years ago when it was absolutely in the shitter, and we were like, they're never going to go away, but they're just going to kind of stagnate diagonally downwards slowly? I feel like it's going to be similar, except stagnate going upwards. You know what I mean?
I do.
Because at some point, the red hot product is gonna taper off somewhat. It can't be that forever. But I do feel like it can be more sustained because it's no longer just an audience for one person anymore. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen along with Triple H.
Agreed.
Well,
and morale is better.
Morale's better. They're more open to working with other people.
The freedom people have to say what they want.
Yeah. I doubt that some other company is going to be around for the next 5 years, but we'll get to them.
We're getting there.
I feel like I don't know what the future holds for WWE, but I feel like, again, the sky's the limit. I feel like they're going to stagnate upwards, and things will not get too much crazier, but it'll just be a stream of just good to great stuff.
Oh,
I think it's going to be fun.
I agree, and here's another question I want to pose to you while we're kind of talking about WWE before we move on to. You can tell I'm prolonging this a little bit.
Yeah,
because I don't blame
you.
I don't want to talk about.
I wouldn't want to go to the dentist and have a root canal either. Sean.
I know.
I would like to prolong that as long as possible.
I know, but in terms of WWE, compared to where we were in the 2022, 2021, basically when you and I started doing pay-per-view reviews in, 2017, when Jinder was not being Jindered at all? You heard me.
We didn't know what he was.
When Jinder wasn't Jindered.
Shit.
Jinder wasn't hindered either. But back in the day, when one of our first matchups that we did was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Jinder Mahal for the world title.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a show. That was, in fact, a show.
Wasn't that the same show that had Big Cass versus Big Show?
Yeah.
With Enzo Amore in a shark cage above the ring?
Yeah. No, I thought that was later. I thought that was later. Maybe, well, but in any case, that year was something. That was the one where John Cena punished Baron Corbin in the opener.
Yep.
But that was but that's true. That's a great point. That's a perfect segue into what I'm saying, especially because John Cena is in the main event this year in a wild heel turn that nobody expected. You want to talk about differences in administrations. But the question I have for you is, what do you think WWE's capability is now that there is much bigger freedom, there's more passion amongst the boys, there's the openness of CM Punk to come back. What do you think WWE's ability is now compared to before to market and actually build and create real wrestling stars again?
They've already been doing it. Like, Cody's bigger than he's ever been, and it's not even close.
Yeah, it's wild how adored he is.
Dude, like, the Cody Rhodes of 2015 back to when he first started in 2007 and now is like a completely different person.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh yeah, and how much he has grown into this, and it's amazing that a torn pec was going to help him so much.
Dude, that's just one of those planet aligning, and him being insane and having balls of steel. That's just one of those planets aligning kind of thing.
And you know what had just occurred to me, JoshAgeddon, is that he left exactly when he needed to for the administration change.
Yep.
Right before all of that came out, torn pec, get me out of here. I'll come back with somebody competent as booking. And here we are. And
it really was a moment where all the planets aligned.
Yeah, it really was. It was destined for Cody Rhodes. It was almost like he was transformed from stardust. And there might be something cosmic to that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But in any case, WWE, the future is bright, man. I mean, Punk being what he is, and just having CM Punk back, Drew McIntyre, the way that people look at Drew McIntyre now.
As opposed to even a year ago.
Yeah.
Or even a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Like the Drew McIntyre that was championing, basically carrying the company through the pandemic, and the Drew McIntyre today, two completely different people.
Yeah. I mean, even the way LA Knight is just organically over. The fact they let people get organically over. Say what you want about Jey Uso, but he got organically over, and they're just riding with it. It's not gonna last.
All right, real quick. I'm gonna hijack the dinner table real quick. Can we talk about Jey Uso for a second?
Let's talk about Jey. We really don't want to talk about AEW, ladies and gentlemen.
We really don't. I would rather talk about.
No, go ahead. No, please, because this is a very interesting case study into the new administration. So please go ahead.
I've never been more mixed on a human being in wrestling than I am right now with Jey Uso. You know what I mean? I
do know what you mean, especially considering the angle they just did on the day that we're recording this, where Jimmy Uso just got bloodied to hell and Gunther had a bloody chokehold, sleeper on him, while Jey was handcuffed to the ropes.
Gunther saying, "You pussy," is the funniest thing I have ever heard. When I heard that, I was crying laughing. And then he said, "You big pussy."
Say what you want. They are trying. They are trying so hard to get people to make people like this.
Yes, they're trying really hard.
It's not working, but they're trying.
Yeah. Hey, this might help get it to work.
You're right.
They don't have all that much time left, but
you're right.
This is one of the best things that Jey has been a part of since he got hot.
Well, and I will also say it's really nice to see that they're letting somebody other than The Rock and Cody get juice.
Or swear.
And that goes to show how much they love Gunther.
Yeah, when's the last time anyone got called a pussy in WWE?
And you know what's wild is that nobody's really been talking about Gunther in this entire time. And Gunther on this night alone went, "I'm going to make you remember why I'm here and why I'm champion." Yeah. And like this, it was so good. It was brutal, but good. It was, but the problem is,
the bell's got to ring.
The bell's got to ring. I've been doing a fun exercise lately on my own time, like grading wrestling promos and like how much of a factor they are into their overall drawing capability and their charisma and all that stuff. And I have not thought about doing Jey Uso because he would be hard to grade because basically his charisma is like A++++++++++. His promos are like a B, you'd think?
So it depends.
It depends.
Sometimes it's a straight up F, where it's just he says a word, the crowd goes yeet, and it's that for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I hate it. And other times he like genuinely sounds like he's pissed, and he goes on a tirade, and it's great. I'm like, do that more often.
And he conveys some real emotion.
That's basically my whole thing with him. Sometimes he's great. Other times he can't dive over the rope and beats Austin Theory with a crossbody spear thing.
Yeah, his consistency is like a B-, which sucks.
His consistency is schizophrenic.
Yeah, and but the thing is, it's like his charisma is so off the charts, and they're marketing that while they can. This would be what would have happened if Zack Ryder actually got the push that people wanted him to have.
Yeah,
but to the credit of this administration, they're trying it. They're like, he got organically over, let's ride this for as long as we can, and when it starts to turn, we'll turn it off. They already figured it out by having them open a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
They already know that they can't end a WrestleMania with it. That being said, it's going to be a big match.
This is the amount of pressure that Jey Uso is under right now. He has got to deliver at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and Gunther...
You want to talk make or break.
Yeah. And I feel like because we've seen the match 4 times already, it's going to be really hard to top that.
Yeah.
But
in their defense, the matches that they have had have been good. Like their match at Saturday Night's Main Event a couple months ago, it was a pretty good match.
Oh, for sure. And here's the con, though, I want to say here, that because the Jey Uso and Gunther, their singles, the way that they've marketed their singles division is, bar none, tremendous. Maybe a few more triple threats than I like, things considered, a lot of those triple threats end up being better than you expect they're going to be. That being said, I usually like just traditional one-on-one matches, but that's a different story because I'm really psyched about Punk and Rollins and Roman, mainly because even if Punk wins or loses, winning a WrestleMania Night 1 main event, like the rest of his career, not good enough. So it's a perfect little layer to his career and to his story, and I love it because it could actually lead to a heel turn that makes John Cena turn face again before he retires. Who knows? We're going to see where everything's going. I think Punk's too loved, honestly. But the one thing that WWE falters with, and they're trying, but in my perspective, they just don't have a division worthy of it, is the tag division.
Yeah.
Or what consists of a tag division that has 2 tag belts for it.
You mean you aren't looking forward to the likely multi-man ladder tag chairs and tables and explosions title match at WrestleMania that we're probably going to get with the Street Profits, DIY, Motor City Machine Guns? You know that there's probably going to be at least one ladder.
Only if they reunify them. Because you know what would be hilarious is if once a year they resplit the titles and then unify the titles and then resplit the titles like every year. Like if it's an odd WrestleMania, we're splitting the titles in half and each show gets them. And then the odd years, or in even years, then we split them back together and we have one tag team belt and they just. What's better than what they're doing now?
That is the single most infuriating idea you've ever had. Because on the years where they unify the belts, I would be like, yes, don't do that again. And then I'd get pissed the next year. And I'd get happy the year after that.
And it's always a multi-man ladder match. It's every time it's a multi-man ladder match. But the qualifier is you have to have either and or Titus O'Neil and Snoop Dogg on commentary for the matchup. Maybe just those two.
Just have Snoop Dogg do a dive off the ladder.
Or give the most shoot elbow of your life to The Miz.
Off of a ladder.
After Shane McMahon has torn his quad in the middle of the ring.
Off of a ladder.
Oh my lord.
Shane tries to dive off a ladder and tears his quad in the middle of the ladder. And he's just dangling there for the rest of the segment.
Oh Lord almighty.
I never want to see Shane McMahon again.
That's the last we saw Shane.
Good.
That was the last time we saw Shane, but I will have to say, he gave us one of the most all-time funniest things we have ever seen at a WrestleMania. Yeah. That segment was
I don't know what was
gold.
Funnier, the Snoop Dogg the shoot at Snoop Dogg Snoople's elbow, or them frantically trying not to show Shane on the camera.
Yeah, that and Miz just doing like a shuffle step, just like going, "Hi, I'm a wrestler, but I really don't know what to do in this situation." And Snoop Dogg's like, "All right, I'm just gonna hit you."
I will say I would rather talk about Shane McMahon than AEW.
I know. Well, thankfully that relationship didn't last very long.
Yeah, that's the one thing about Shane that I would agree with. Like,
well, so let's talk about the Hall of Fame, shall we? Because
John, at some point we're gonna have to rip the Band-Aid off.
I know, but this is actually on the list. I actually put this. I actually wrote this down. I've actually written most of what we've talked about down, actually. But we have 4 entries as of now. There might be another. I've heard that there's a couple rumors of people might be going in. There's probably going to be one more at least, I'm guessing, because it's kind of a short list we've got. But let's talk about these, because it kind of goes to show what the deal is with WWE. That the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's just different groups that are getting the nepotism. Because we have Michelle McCool. And I'm not saying Michelle McCool doesn't deserve to go in, but her run was really brief.
And not all of it was great. She was like one of the first, like, okay, maybe not one of the first, but during the whole Divas era, she was one of the ones who was like, if they actually had a serious women's division, She'd be pretty good in it.
You know who the first person was to hold the Divas title?
Michelle McCool.
Yes.
And she did it by defeating Natalia at the Great American Bash, 2008.
Natalia, who always gets a once-a-year pop for showing up at the Rumble, at least for me.
And losing.
And losing very promptly thereafter. It's always great to see Natty. I don't mean that as a knock. But I don't know. There's just so many other ones. Like Mickie James could go in, but instead Michelle McCool is replacing Mickie James on one of their exterior programs.
Yep.
And, and it's just, but that's kind of the point. It's like, you still have the politics that's just a different head of the politics, who's a little bit more reasonable than the first guy. That's kind of the major difference, is that there's much better faith being put into the process of what Triple H is bringing to the table. But you still got your favorites.
Yeah.
But then moving right along, next up, Triple H! Who would have thought?
Wow, who could have seen that coming?
Who would have seen that coming? Yeah, and the whole fake Shawn Michaels and Undertaker staged Triple H at his own event, like, what? I didn't know this was happening.
I love the idea of, you know who's going in my Hall of Fame next? Me!
But you know what? That's another Vinceism that Vince never wanted to go in, and now he never will go in. But
yeah,
Vince never wanted to go in, and Triple H is like, no, love me. I love me. My kids love me. My customers love me.
Sometimes the fans love me.
Because I'm the real article. What you see is what you get. But planes, trains, and automobiles quotes aside.
I did the pedigree.
It's
a lot.
And now all of my wrestling proteges do the pedigree. On every show.
Yes. And none of them win with it because only I win
only
with the
I win
pedigree.
with it. That's so true. That's so unbelievably true.
Yeah.
When was the last time a pedigree? That must have been 2015 when Seth was using it. Or no, when Triple H beat Batista, I guess.
Well, funnily enough, Seth did pin Triple H with the pedigree at WrestleMania 33.
He did. He also smashed Stephanie through a table.
Yeah. He also smashed Stephanie.
That was okay. That was a good match, though. I enjoyed that.
He checked her pedigree.
Bet. And, yeah, now all of his kids laughing in Waluigi. Oh, my God. Laughing in Irish Waluigi. Oh, dear. That's going to be quite a sound that comes out of that baby's mouth. It's going to sound like bagpipes.
Yeah, with that big freakish nose.
Well, speaking of freakish, the natural disasters are going in. Mm-hmm. Earthquake and Typhoon. And that's the tag team that they've chosen. They were pretty instrumental in WWE's tag division in the early days.
When they announced that, there were a lot of people who were like, but what about Demolition?
I mean, they are missing Demolition. Yeah. Admittedly, they're missing. They've inducted the Road Warriors, but they haven't inducted Demolition, which was basically rip-off Road Warriors, but worked for what WWE was doing. But, I'm pretty sure that that's coming. It's just they're trying to work. Triple H is like the ultimate olive branch giver-outer to all of these people. Punk came back. Luger's coming back for the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
It's remarkable the way that Triple H in the past 10 years has been able to mend so many fences and rebuild bridges that Vince burned.
Yep.
And
he's really good at it.
He's really good at it. And, we'll have to see.
Although I will say that part of his job has gotten substantially easier nowadays, because now all he has to say is, yeah, he's not here anymore.
Hey, get him on the phone. Good. We're good now.
Yeah.
How many times has he had to say, "Hey, no, I understand, but we're good now. We're much better now than we were before."
Dude, People actually sometimes like us on X. They don't just complain constantly.
Very few people knew that it was even going to happen. But yeah.
By the way, did you know that I'm going in the Hall of Fame?
With his glasses like 2/3 of the way down his nose and his beard rustling in the fans of the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's anyway. Oh, God bless you, Bay Stage. You've made in wrestling something to be proud of again. It's like,
honestly, yeah.
The shame that we used to feel.
Yeah.
The shame we used to feel admitting we're wrestling fans. Now I will argue wrestling with anybody. I will talk about wrestling to anyone because there are so many good redeeming qualities about this craft that are just so tremendously better and displayable now.
Dude, when John Cena turned heel, everyone at my job was talking about it because it was all over TikTok. And none of the people I work with watch wrestling.
The records that have been shattered by WWE, selling out house after house after house after house after house, and they're just slam dunking, doing everything Vince wouldn't. John Cena heel turn? Got you. I mean, The Rock has been coming around and giving his crap ideas that they've had to pivot away from and make better content out of, but let's not talk about that. And that's going to be kind of...
Dwayne.
I get the feeling that Skylar and I are going to talk about that plenty next time.
Oh, absolutely.
So, with that said, it's time. It's time. But, oh wait, it's not time. I have another fun fact.
Yay!
Did you know that
we don't want to talk about AEW?
Well, speaking of prolonging
AEW without you.
Oh, speaking of prolonging things, would you like to hear the 2 highest amount of cumulative entrance times of WrestleMania history?
Oh no.
The Undertaker has
no shocker there.
has accumulated 1 hour and 43 minutes of entrance time.
Oh my God.
Now keep in mind that spans like 30 years, so it's a bit. But
they could. Honestly, I would watch a whole DVD of just that. It is a pretty. It's long, but it is a cool entrance, so we'll allow it.
It's a lot.
Damn it, Mark Calloway.
Well, and
you wonderful human being.
And slightly behind that is Triple H. With 1 hour and 13 minutes.
You know, when you said...
Triple H is half an hour behind. Does that put Triple H out of retirement to come out and do a 30-minute entrance just so he can beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania?
You know he would. But, Sean, the worst part is when you said two longest cumulative entrances in WrestleMania, I immediately was like, yeah, I know. One's Triple H and the other one's The Undertaker. And then you said what you said, and I'm like, damn it, both of you that I love so much.
Yep. No, it's so true. But, you know, I knew this instantly only because of how much I do those entrances in CIW.
Yeah.
And those entrances take so long. When I was having Kratos and the Grim Reaper fight, it was 10 minutes for just the 2 of them to get to the fucking ring. It's like... Literally, and that's in the game, let alone the game and The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And, yeah, so I just thought that was a fun little titty bit. And WWE certainly has marketed titty bits. But thankfully, the women's division is better.
Baby steps.
Better. It's getting better. It's not nearly as multi-woman garbage, except when Nia has to use a chair. Or do a hurricanrana. In one of the funniest attempts I've ever seen in my life. I still think that was... Poor fucking Bayley.
Hey, even Naomi, who we dump on sometimes, her heel thing is going great so far.
Well, and they're getting personality out of people we thought were DOA. Think about what we thought of Liv Morgan until, like 2 days ago. You know, I've really come around on her as a personality. Her in-ring is fine. Fine. Yeah. I still don't love that finish, but her in-ring is fine. But she herself, as a personality, has really come a long way under the right guidance. She's not doing multi-man matches wrestling Nikki Ash.
She's really good at being infuriating.
Yeah, and it works.
Instead of just being infuriating. Like, if you're infuriating, at least capitalize on that.
Yeah, she's good at being infuriating instead of being infuriating is a really good way to put that.
Yes.
Well, in any case, we have to go. Oh God.
Speaking of infuriating,
and boy is it.
And inferior just in general.
You know, I think to that episode of Catdog where Dog starts reading like a shit ton of books and his brain starts getting bigger, and every time the dog reads the books and his brain gets bigger, Cat's brain gets smaller and he gets just stupider, and then he tries to like push Dog's brain and then it goes into his brain. That show is weird. I loved that show, but it was weird. But in any case, the whole paradox of like, as one grows, the other astronomically shrinks. It really has been the second Vince left WWE, that's when everything went downhill for this company. That company we're referring to, of course, is AEW. And let alone what we have already discussed at length on this podcast about Brawl Out and CM Punk leaving and everything about that. Just the calendar year. This was right around when the Punk footage came out. So let's take a look at what has happened in the past calendar year. What do you remember thinking about, feeling about, doing anything about AEW 1 year ago when that footage was released?
One thing over and over. Okay, I've been thinking one phrase every time AEW does anything, starting at that exact moment, except it's the same phrase but louder each time I think it. What the fuck are you doing? Why the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? And just louder and louder and louder and angrier every time for reasons unbeknownst to even me, I turn on one of their shitty programs or pay-per-views. Oh,
As if we weren't saying that in the first 3 years of its existence, but then
they had something occasionally.
Yeah. Well,
and now that something they had is in WWE.
Well, and they did that. They had at least some benefit of the doubt when they didn't air the footage, and there was still some question about what had happened as far as the argument between Tony and Punk and the fearing for his life, even though he was getting booed then. But then Tony aired that footage, and it proved him to be a gigantic pussy.
As Gunther would say.
Yes, and as I repeatedly said
yes.
About Tony, and that he was feckless and ineffective and had no actual signs of leadership at all. And since then, the ratings have exemplified just how much AEW's fans have lost faith in him.
They have literally every week they hit a new low. It's like, this is the coldest they've ever been. And then the next week happens, and they're somehow even colder.
And, you know, they've been
amazing.
And the ratings have just fallen off. You know, it's wild. I mean, we're going to talk about the most recent couple of weeks here in just a second, so I don't want to get to that just yet. But save for this past couple of weeks where the ratings have gone up, but they were in the 800, 700,000s right before they aired that footage. They lost like 130,000 people, like cumulatively, very quickly after that. And they've dropped now into the 6s, 5s, 4s.
They're dumb as shit, and why am I watching this? And the other channel is doing better.
Yeah, and it was, well, and that's the thing. WWE became fun to watch, and AEW just were floundering, you know, and somehow they found a way to lock in major talent like, well, I say major, but they found a way to devalue all this talent because Tony's booking and his finishes are so counterproductive to all the talent in that program.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't know how to build stars. at all.
Dude, there's one dude in particular that we're going to get to. Skylar's going to cut a promo on The Rock. I'm going to cut a promo on this dude when we get to him. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said I don't want to get to the most recent stuff, because he's been a huge part of the overall failure of AEW. But the thing is that you go by the numbers and the ratings and the vibe, everything seems like a failure. But then you look at Warner Discovery having zero standards, giving up the NBA to renew AEW.
It sounds so preposterous when you say that out loud.
After they've lost, like, on average, almost 200,000 people from where they started the year. And almost half of their audience from when they started Dynamite.
Yeah.
They started with, what, a 1.3 was the first night? And by the time that the media rights renewal showed up, they were getting like 640.
Yep.
Just to put that in perspective, and where the Discovery, no other show would be able to lose half their audience and remain on the air.
If it was not for Tony Khan's
billionaire
dad's
money.
bank account,
that
show would have been off the air.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt. And it's just like, and this is after so many other fuck-ups and snafus, like the Crown of Thorns incident that I found.
I was literally just about to say, they've had so many Crown of Thorn table incidents since the original one.
The pizza cutter.
The pizza cutter.
And that was early.
Yep.
But they haven't stopped doing that, as evidenced by, and now we'll get to it, one of the biggest problems, the guy who seems to be unbeatable by anybody, and has been the only guy who's been booked to be unbeatable since AEW started, Jon Moxley.
He's not the one that I wanted to cut a promo on, but he's like 1A to the other person that I want.
No, we're going to get to that guy. We're going to get to him, too.
Jon Moxley, like, I miss Dean Ambrose so much. That dude could wrestle. That dude could cut promos.
Well, AEW proved that some people really should not be allowed to come up with their own ideas.
I can totally understand why Brock Lesnar didn't want to do any of that dumb shit that Dean wanted to do at WrestleMania 32.
Yep,
I totally get it now.
Me too.
And especially, like, I remember when we watched Revolution 2022 and it was Jon Moxley versus Bryan Danielson, and you said, and my notes read, Jon Moxley sucks. And ever since then, his in-ring, because at the time I didn't entirely agree, but his in-ring has just withered up and died.
It's awful.
He
is awful.
I've noticed that he does the same thing that I complain about Santos Escobar. What do I complain about Santos Escobar? His in-ring.
What don't you complain about Santos Escobar's in-ring?
Well, I'll give it Santos this. He's at least athletic. He's well built.
Yeah, Moxley used to be.
Yeah, used to be, but then he left WWE, and now he is where he is. But
now he is ghastly white.
Yeah, Santos can't sell to save it. He can't even sell a punch. It's like fighting a statue.
Yeah, Moxley refuses to sell.
And Santos sucks at taking bumps. But at least, again, he can kind of take bumps because he's athletic. It's just, it looks like he doesn't know how to. It doesn't look like he's just actively not. He just looks like he just doesn't know how.
American style doesn't really suit him. He is much more a luchador than this.
Yeah.
Jon Moxley is a luchadont.
Yeah. Jon Moxley is everything bad about Santos Escobar except cranked up to the nth degree. Like, it's not that he can't sell, he won't sell.
Yeah.
He doesn't bump. It's not that he can't bump, he just doesn't.
And he chokes out everybody.
His strikes are lame. He walks around like he's the angriest, most constipated human being ever, all the time.
His promos are the same shit over and over
Yes.
again.
Everything about him is just lame.
He's a 3-time champion. No one else has that.
No. 4-time.
4-time champion, excuse me. He is Tony Khan's Hogan. And why?
He's the anti-Hogan.
He is. I mean, it's sad. It's sad that this is the guy that Tony wanted to get behind. Of all the people, like, not Kenny, even though Kenny was an EVP, not Kenny Omega, even though they tried with him, but he was a ratings pop. He did better ratings than Moxley has.
Yeah.
But it hasn't mattered because the leadership of this company, Tony Khan, making money doesn't mean anything to him. So,
and another part of what makes Jon Moxley so unbearable, like storyline wise, this Death Rider thing is ass.
It's the worst.
Especially because every match, the deciding factor of the world title most of the time is Wheeler fucking Yuta.
Or Marina Shafir beating up the guys.
He looks like someone at this point that I would make fun of for being too emo. Think about that.
Yeah. No.
When I'm calling someone else an emo beanpole, you got a problem.
He needs to hit the Gerard weight room.
He needs to find a new profession. And you can audibly hear the crowd groan, God, please no, whenever his stupid, useless ass walks into frame.
But those are the people that Tony keeps trying to push, and he has destroyed reputations and values of so many people who have tried to help. All the veterans that have come in that have cared have all been they've all left or had their soul ripped out of their chest, like the Temple of Doom in Indiana Jones, like JR. Yes. And, but either that or they come and they sell up for their paycheck and they get to pretend like they're 30 years old again and destroy their legacy. Destroy what they had built. And they think what they're doing's good. And now I will let this be to you, but I want you to know that I echo all of the sentiments JoshAgeddon's about to say about this dude. I agree 100% because there is no one who... You think that John Cena sold out? No. No. Go ahead, JoshAgeddon.
Fuck Adam Copeland. Fuck him and just... there's a reason why he's my... I hate him more than anyone else in AEW, more than Jon Moxley, because at this point, I don't expect anything from shit. I don't expect anything but shit from Jon Moxley. I'm over it. I don't care. He's a cancer that I'm used to at this point. I expect more from Adam Copeland. That's the difference. That's what makes it so upsetting.
I used to.
Who expects better from Jon Moxley? No one. Not even someone as empty-headed and just fucking dumb as Renee Paquette.
Yeah, I think that she might be the dumbest person in the company, actually.
You don't even need to. All you need to do is hear that woman talk, and you know everything you need to know. But Adam Copeland is the fucking worst. Just not even the fact that his matches kind of suck in AEW, and it's a watered down version of his 2020 to 2023 run in WWE, and even that was hit and miss. It's more that it has turned into Hulk Hogan. That's what's pissing me. That doesn't work for me, brother. Except the Canadian version. He's Canadian Hulk Hogan at this point. As far as the backstage politicking. And you wouldn't expect that from Adam. Well, you wouldn't expect that from Edge.
And it's also not as effective as Hogan because guess who ended up still getting choked out?
Yeah, exactly.
So it didn't even work.
At least Hogan drew.
Yeah.
At least when Hogan was politicking, he was making money.
Yeah. You can't dispute that.
Who has bought a ticket to see Adam Copeland beat a young talent? No one.
Yeah, remember when he was doing a string of them? He beat Penta. Yeah. He beat, who else was it? Was it Danny Garcia?
I'm sure.
Not that I give a fuck about Danny Garcia. He doesn't mean anything to anybody. But that's another guy that Tony tries to push that people don't care about.
Dante Martin, that toddler-looking guy of many that work in AEW. But that right there, do you remember what Adam Copeland called that little open challenge?
No.
He called it the Cope Open because he's a fucking idiot. Why could you not just call it the Copeland Challenge? That right there tells you everything you need to know. Like, no, I'm going to call it the Cope Open because you're a fucking idiot.
Well,
that is a tiny microcosm of everything I can't stand about Adam Copeland.
Well,
and going around the bush to be terrible.
Well, and it also emulated Chris Jericho's philosophy of, I'm like the kids, right?
Yeah.
And that's what bothered me. It's like, instead of me working an edge match with you, let me do your shit. Let me stoop to your level. And that's where that got me going already with him. Then there was the fight with Christian, where they took a minute to put on hockey jerseys and then hockey fight in the fakest way. You know me and Kevin Owens and that fucking hockey fight. You know what I say about it. I would watch that for 40 minutes straight, then watch that Edge and Christian thing again. And then, it's just so masturbatory. And the legends don't care that are there. Yep. The young kids, their careers are nearly destroyed. They have to go away for like a year at a time, and then WWE brings them in.
Dude,
to get all the stink off first. Like, they say, go home and shower that off, and then we'll bring in and use you. And it's...
But, like, you brought up Chris Jericho. As bad as Jericho has been...
And it's been bad.
At least in some way, he was, in his own deluded kind of way, trying to put people over. It wasn't working. It was stupid. It was bad. But at least you could tell that he thought he was doing the right thing.
Well... And that's the funny thing, because that's where I think that's the other half of the Hulk Hogan, right? Because Jericho said, I was Hogan in 94 when I came in, and by and large, he's been right. He was featured incredibly heavily. At first it was worth it when he was champion, and then doing all these gimmick changes and doing this stuff, and then you hear all the stuff like I was abducted by aliens and all the other stuff, then all of the complaints at all of these hotels, hey, Derek, and all that stuff. And it's like, he really did turn into Hogan to some degree. Edge is just doing the that doesn't work for me, brother half. And the Jericho's doing the I'm helping, but also the spotlight's on me, right? Let me sign a 10-year contract about it. And
I would honestly rather watch Chris Jericho than Edge at this point, because Edge is helping no one but himself.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's...
And you can tell that he just does not care.
And I also think what's more disappointing than that is that he had that 9 years off, and the way that we all believed in that. Who do you think destroyed their return/departure legacy more, Edge or Ric Flair, when he went to TNA?
Well, that's honestly. I think Ric Flair is doing more to destroy his legacy nowadays, just yelling at random waitresses and patrons and being drunk all the time on his ass.
I don't disagree with that. Claiming that he's going to wrestle again at WrestleMania, yeah.
No, Rick, we don't want none.
No, Rick.
We're good. But at least, back to my point, at least Chris Jericho thought he was trying to help. Edge, you can just tell, he's going through some kind of midlife crisis. That's the only thing that makes any level of sense.
I think he's trying to make up for lost time. Those 9 years that he took off, he's trying to make up for it, not realizing that we all kind of feel like it would have been better if he just took the rest off.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I would have rather him retire after the WrestleMania match where he lost in that triple threat to Roman and Daniel Bryan, and that have been that, than this. It's just... I feel bad how little I think of him now.
It's sad.
It is sad.
That's why I hate him more than Jon Moxley, because when Jon Moxley suplexes himself on top of a spiked bat because they can't get anyone to watch their stupid TV show, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something Jon Moxley would do. It was disgusting.
It was gross.
Definitely shock factor.
And you know what's sad about that? It popped a rating on the next week's Dynamite. And they're going to think that they should do that more often, that it's going to work for them.
Yeah.
That's going to encourage them.
You expect that with Jon Moxley. I'm just so I'm a little disappointed because John Moxley used to be great. Edge is a legend.
Yeah.
Let me fix that. He was a legend.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. John Moxley has never been a legend anywhere but in his own mind.
Yeah.
Adam Copeland was a legend. He's my dad's favorite. That's another thing. He was my dad's favorite wrestler. Guarantee you my dad has no idea that he even still wrestles.
And you know what? Let him live in kayfabe, brother.
Exactly. Exactly. I will not break my dad's heart.
Let him ride the memory strong. And, I guess that leads us to, like, where do you see AEW being? I mean, they've got another 5 years on this TV deal, so they're at least going to stick around for that long, and unless Warner Discovery pulls the plug because they keep doing shock jock crap like that. But that hasn't hurt them yet. They've done it plenty of times. But where do you think AEW is headed in the next 5 years?
I think that because Penta has been so well treated, and Rey Fenix is going to be there soon. Aleister Black is going to be there soon. I think that there's a good chance that at some point there's going to be a talent exodus from AEW before Warner Brothers pulls the plug.
Yeah.
There's gonna be either people leaving AEW to go to WWE or just leaving wrestling in general. Because if Warner Bros. Were going to pull the plug, they would have by now.
Agreed. No sane mind would have given up the NBA for AEW. So it's clear it's not going to come from them unless something really drastic happens.
Let me put it this way. At some point, the locker room is going to reflect the audience of AEW dwindling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And
so there's a chance that they'll probably still not exist, but persist. So that's a very important distinction.
It's what TNA did for a long ass time.
they're going to persist like an incurable chronic illness until like there's just no one working there anymore. No one wants to have anything. They've sucked all they can suck from Tony Khan. And
you think Ring of Honor is going to get that TV deal?
Dude, Ring of Honor is what's probably not going to exist in 5 years.
I hope so. I genuinely hope so.
It barely exists right now. It's literally just, like when you have a character in a video game that you can like, oh, here's an unlockable skin that's a different character, but it still plays the same. That's ROH. It's literally just AEW with the ROH logo superimposed and photoshopped on top of it.
Yeah. And Chris Jericho's its champion, or was its champion. I don't know if anywhere, but in any case.
I don't know. Who cares? No one cares.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they had such good faith when things looked the bleakest in WWE. But the second that WWE shaped their shit up, Tony didn't know what the fuck to do. And it showed.
WWE got its shit together. AEW shit the bed.
Yeah. And it's
so bad that the apartment complex they were in had to be condemned.
But they got a media rights deal. But John Moxley tore his back apart and it popped a rating. And Dave Meltzer. Sure. And fucking Dave Meltzer, period.
Yeah, Captain, my brain has been leaking out of my ear for the past year and a half.
But you know what? WWE has been sucking up talent, and they've been doing it a lot, because even though Tony can flaunt a lot of money at these guys, it hasn't been the difference maker that Tony thought it would be. He could buy some people off, but he can't buy the good people off.
Yeah.
And the people who go to AEW thinking that they can make AEW good soon realize that they should not have been bought off.
There is no unsinking this ship.
Yeah, hence Camille is like, yeah, let me go film a movie instead. I think that's a better idea for me. So, but then let's talk, just finally to wrap all this up, the state of wrestling as a whole and where it is as a business. What are your overall thoughts on where we are, where we're headed, and what it means for wrestling fans over the next couple of years?
I think that thanks to WWE, largely, I mean, it is the biggest It is the biggest game on the block. Wrestling has like been way more culturally relevant because of, you know, Vince McMahon being told, "Hey, there's the door. Don't shit on anyone on the way out. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you." Ever since then, it's honestly been a renaissance period, and it's been so much fun. Like, again, people that don't even watch wrestling that I work with talk about wrestling sometimes. I had a freaking soccer mom walk in with a John Cena shirt, and I can tell she's the most casual fan that you can imagine, and she was talking to me about John Cena's heel turn. Like, I love that it's becoming, like, not... Because, again, like, back when I was growing up, oh, you watch wrestling, that fake gay shit? That's weird. Why do you watch something real like UFC, because that's totally not fixed, or the NFL, because that's totally not fixed. Wink, wink, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Looking at you, Taylor Swift.
I didn't say it. JoshAgeddon said it, but, you know.
The thoughts and opinion espoused on this program are purely those of my own. But may also somewhat reflect what I believe, but I'm not willing to say that overtly. Allegedly. Go ahead. Hey, don't believe your lying eyes. That's all I'll say.
Go ahead. 1984. Great book. Go ahead.
You stop it with that factual information.
All hail Big Brother. Go ahead.
Anyway. But I think wrestling, despite Tony Khan's best efforts, wrestling is in a much better place today. It's way more culturally relevant. It's being featured on ESPN now. People that actually, you know, matter are actually, like, attending events. Like, attendance and overall is up. People are actually talking about wrestling. And, like, it's, like, again, WWE's just crushing record after record after record. They need to be careful about overpricing tickets. That's the one thing they need to be a little bit more conservative about, in my humble estimation. But I think that it's just going to continue. I think that, like, 5 years from now, like, one thing that they're doing is they're actively trying to attract newer fans.
Agreed.
As much as I don't like all the Zoomerisms with NXT right now, it's going to attract newer fans. And that's all you can really ask for.
No doubt. No doubt. And they've got proper stars again. It feels like we've got a destination in mind. Like, there's a direction in this company that it's not just resting on complacency. You know, there's a direction. You know, you can trust the process. Like, at the Rumble, when we were like, what happened here? But what did we say? We can trust the process. And look what's come out of that.
Yeah, literally the next pay-per-view.
John Cena heel turn and some of the greatest wrestling promos I've seen in a hot minute. From Punk and from Drew and from everybody. Everybody's cooking right now.
We're recording this podcast on a Monday. My 14th Super Show is going to go up in like 30 minutes. And after that is over with, I can't wait to watch Raw.
Yeah, it's fun to watch Raw.
Think about that.
And you can watch it on Netflix anytime now. You can just grab it. I mean, I love that, because I used to not be able. I don't do TV, so I used to not be able to watch the show. Now I can watch a Raw if I want to, or go and watch a full segment just on Netflix if I feel like it. It's a great time.
I can watch it anytime I want to as well, but I may or may not. Of course I'm totally.
He's totally using Netflix.
I'm not using anything else.
He's using Netflix, not my Netflix, but he's using Netflix.
Yeah, not anything that will result in numerous pop ads and viruses. Well, why would you even say such a thing? Arg, I'm not a pirate.
Well, while he's installing MacKeeper and McAfee, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. And this has concluded part one. JoshAgeddon, thank you so much for this wonderful discussion about the state of professional wrestling here in 2025, heading into WrestleMania 41.
Oh, I am excited. And I am also excited to hear Skylar's hour-long promo on The Rock. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that, folks. It's going to be next, so stay tuned. Next week, you're going to get part 2 of this discussion on the state of wrestling with Skylar Greenberg. JoshAgeddon, we will see you for the WrestleMania reviews, and we also have a couple other fun programs that we've got lined up. We're going to make something out of 2025, so stay tuned, folks. A lot's coming, but right now, we will be right back right after this.